Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 8, Kick the Can podcast. Hope everybody's great out there, catching up on your episodes. We're having a lot of fun here talking about these things. Today, I got some help, much needed help on the podcast. My old time friend from the old days, Frankie Pagnotta, is going to join me, and we're going to talk about a lot about the sports and games, the leagues and different teams and friendships through the sports. So let's welcome on Frankie. How's it going, Frank?
Hello, Paul. How are you? Thanks for having me on.
Really good. Really glad to have you on, helping me out.
And thanks to your son for being the technician.
Yeah, I hope it doesn't quit on me. I could try to do this by myself. I don't think so. So Frank, a little background of our past, our history, to get it rolling, and then.
So I was almost from the other side of town. I lived on the corner of 188th Street and Arthur Avenue, across from Joe Body on one side, diagonally across from the park on the other, and a factory on the other. And if you remember, right. Some people might remember, there used to be Black Mountain there.
Yeah.
Stretched from the middle of 188th Street to Hoffman Street. And I remember climbing that mountain many times.
Across from the ice plant.
Across from Danny's ice plant, correct.
Right.
And right across from there is where you mentioned last week, who was the Italian guy from the neighborhood who was in Sopranos?
Dominic Cinesi.
Right. There was a small building, and that's where the Cinesis lived.
Really?
Really, right next to. I remember that there was a grocery store in the corner.
Yep.
Rita Butcher.
Frank, what was the name of the? Was there a bar or something under your building?
Oh my God, yeah.
Lobster Box or
the Lobster Box, exactly.
Is that what it was?
The Lobster Box, 100%.
Right, but there's no lobsters in there. That was just
there was no lobsters.
You weren't getting any lobster rolls there.
Not a chance. Not a chance.
Yeah.
So that's where I.
Yeah, go ahead.
That's where I was from. Paul obviously was from Hoffman Street, where most of the guys are from. I went to public school. I went to PS 32, way up the hill on Cambrelling and 183rd. One, if not the only at that time, schools with a swimming pool inside.
That's right.
One of the unique things there is that the guys had to swim naked. Now, why? I have no clue. But the guys had to swim naked.
Didn't want you going back to class with wet underwear.
I don't know, but yeah, I guess I'm sure it was a traumatic experience.
Yeah.
But I had a best friend back then, Gary Totaro, and we played. We were in the same class most of the time, and there was a softball field there with, this case, no left field. So the third baseman and the shortstop were essentially against the left field fence. So that's where, as a hitter, I learned to hit to right field because there was nowhere to go in left field.
Exactly.
So, that's kind of my genesis of being a ball player. And I know Paul wants to save a bunch of other stuff for the future of games we played and stuff, so I'll leave that alone.
We, Frank, PS 32 went to 6th grade only?
PS 32 went to the 6th grade, right. I was in the 6-1 class. Yeah, right, but actually, funny story, I started out at 45 in kindergarten, and then they swapped the schools. So for kindergarten, I went to 45, which was Paul Hoffman school.
Right.
And then first grade, I ended up on Cambrelling in 183rd. But Really,
Yeah.
really interesting. The basketball
Yeah.
court in that gym was on the top floor, and the ceiling was up against the top of the backboard. So you had to learn how to shoot low.
And the school when you got there was probably already 100 years old. The building.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's one thing about the schools. They were just old and decrepit.
Yep, yep.
Oh man.
So one of the things that I can't for the life of me remember is how I came in contact with you guys. I can only think that my days on the weekend and in the summertime was spent going to 45 Field, which was between Bathgate and Laurelard. And I would take my glove and my bat, and I'd be there all day Saturday, in the summertime, all day, and just hang out, playing baseball. Whoever wanted to hit the ball, excuse me, or have a catch. And I'm assuming that's where I met most of you guys, because
Yeah.
from there, my recollection goes to hanging out on Hoffman Street and being a ball buster, as the rest of us were, or all of us were.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
and some of our trips around the surrounding areas, chasing cats and doing all stupid things.
Chasing cats. Haven't caught
Um,
one yet.
yeah, right. And then
Hey, hey,
go ahead.
okay. Hey, I sort of think that when you got on the Mount Carmel CYO team, seventh
Right.
grade
Hmm.
was now you
Yeah,
were around
that's where
all
it
the
came
time.
together. Yeah,
That's
Gary
really
and I.
was.
Yeah,
Yep.
Gary and I were a team, and we played all sports together. And at that time,
Yeah.
brother Herbst was the coach of the basketball team, and
Yep.
in Mount Carmel. And he saw Gary and me playing, I guess, in 45, and he said, are you guys part? Do you live in the parish?" And we said, "Sure." He goes, "You go to church?" And we said, "Oh yeah, we go to church," which was a lie at that point. And he goes, "You want to play
Yeah.
basketball?" And we said, "Sure." And so we ended up on the Mount Carmel team, and
Yeah.
a whole bunch of guys. And the guy I
Yeah.
remember the most was Tommy Testy. And
Yeah.
brother Herbst used to beat him. I don't mean physically, but mercilessly, about how he's got to hustle and you're the biggest guy. And
He
Tommy,
was the
Tommy,
tallest.
yeah, Tommy ended up playing high school basketball for
Yeah.
Cathedral High School. Yep.
Let's give
So
a shout out, Frank, to some of the rest of the guys on the team with their names. I remember Louis. Was Spatty on the team?
I don't remember Spatty. I know Louis was definitely on the team.
Louis, Danny,
Danny was on the team.
you,
Um,
Gary,
Gary, um,
Testy, naturally.
Tommy was on the team.
Did he
Um,
have some ninth graders when we were in
yeah,
eighth
we had
grade?
Shay. Yep, Shay and Dylan.
Shay and Dylan.
Yep, were the ninth graders, and they were on the
Yeah,
team.
that eighth grade
And
team you guys had was really good.
yeah,
I
yeah.
don't, I
And
don't remember you guys even losing.
what I remember the most is going upstairs into the locker room, and Mount Carmel had a plethora of jerseys, blue and gold and white and all different colors, and obviously from previous years. But I mean, we were definitely the best dressed team in that
Best
whole
dressed.
Catholic league. The
Yeah,
whole
you guys
Catholic
had
league,
warm ups.
warm up jerseys, yep, all that stuff. Yeah,
Yeah, good looking.
Kafutsi Hall,
With a scoreboard, Frank.
with a
Who
scoreboard that
had that?
worked. Nobody. We used to go St.
Oh,
Philip Neri, St. Benedict's,
St. Lucy's.
St. Lucy's. Yep,
Some
yep,
of those
yeah, those.
schools you play in the basement.
Yeah, yeah, yep. That's right. And it
Yeah,
was, it was a fun time, and actually, that's where we met girls, and actually, I met my
yeah,
my future wife there, Carolyn and Liz and Ro. They were the cheerleaders.
Yeah.
So whenever
The
whenever
cheerleaders,
anybody
right.
yeah, whenever anybody asked me, I said, sure, I was a basketball star and I married a cheerleader.
and, I wasn't on the team, but I went to all the games anyway because there
Yeah,
was a chance
yeah.
to see a
Saturdays,
girl
yeah, Saturday
or
was a big
talk to
deal. We
them.
go or in the afternoon, late in the afternoon.
Yeah. Those
Yeah.
are fun
So
times. And,
so
we're
let's
fortunate that you're still friends with these ladies. And
yes, yeah,
it's really, when you look back on it, those are
yep,
one of those things I really love talking about, that these old friendships. I probably know you, over 60 years,
yep. Oh,
and the
sure,
whole group.
sure. Well,
Yeah.
while we're on
So
basketball, let's stick to
go ahead.
basketball rather than jump around. There was and this is when we got a little older. On Saturday mornings, there would be a basketball tournament, I'll call it, but we played for money. And there were teams
Whoa.
from all over the area. So there was a team from like Prospect. There was a team from Crotona. There was a team which was the team that I was on from down Third Avenue, Tex and Gijo. And we
Yeah.
played Billy Borelli, Ligori, Peter
Liggy.
Hotstoffer. Yeah, Liggy.
Right.
So we played Danny Martino. We played basketball for money, and if you won, you stayed on the court. If you lost, you waited your turn in line, seeing how much you wanted to bet. And so that was
Right.
Saturday mornings. Every Saturday, we played basketball for money in junior in 45 Field,
And
and so we
outside.
get outside. And I
Yeah.
and I got the bad knees to prove it for being on concrete. Let me tell you.
Yeah. The basketball courts, like, there was that first fence from where the football field was, and the fence, and the
Hmm.
basketball courts were in that yard, right?
Yep, the next yard over.
And it was really something to have two basketball nets on both ends that were not broken, if I remember right.
Yep, yep,
You had to bring a wrench to
yep.
before you started playing,
And
because
then
you
when
had
we
to
got
do some
then
repairs.
when yeah then when we got older and we actually had a basketball league in the park. And I
Yeah,
remember, and I mean those were some intense games. I remember
absolutely.
we had a team from Villa Avenue, teams from Morris Park. They would come and we'd have it was intense games. It was like after the softball games, we go
Yeah.
into there'd be two games a night. So the second game could be going till midnight, and Joe Body would be screaming from his window because we had the lights on.
And that's what enabled you guys to have those games when they
Yep,
added those lights to the playground.
yep, yep. That's right.
Because before that, it was, just
Yep,
barely any lights in there.
yep.
you know. And we were talking about, after you finished playing, they had one of those little portable swimming pools, and everybody would jump in. You know.
After we had a few beers, everybody
Right,
would
right,
jump
right.
in.
It's
Jesus, I
also some
remember. I
hot
remember.
nights.
I remember one night I got awfully drunk, and my window could see into the park, but I was outside the park. I got smashed drinking beer and ended up laying out like on the sidewalk with my feet in the road and my head on the sidewalk, and I could hear my mother screaming from the window, "Frankie!" And I wasn't the only one
That's
high, so I don't
fair.
want you to think that.
Yeah.
You
No.
know, it was funny times, funny times.
Those were the
Um,
days. Even
so that was
with the softball, I remember. I only played maybe the first or second year with the
yeah.
Fordham Bears, and it was
Well,
that team
softball,
was pretty much every softball, yeah,
yeah,
from
softball
the
had a couple,
block.
couple, couple iterations. And shout
Yeah,
out to who we knew as Fat Rudy, who organized all this
yeah,
stuff. He would get us baseball bats and balls. You got to supply your own glove, but we'd have jerseys. We were all named after like a major league team, and
Yeah.
again, we had so many kids in the neighborhood. We all at least had 10 guys to fill a softball roster, but more. And we just continued to play, and that was when it was a little more organized when Rudy did it. But
Yeah. He
you know,
organized the schedule, got the
yep,
refs, the
yep.
umpires, and
Joe
that went on for a couple of
BBI's,
years.
yeah, that went on for a couple of years,
Now, hey
and
Frank,
then
was
we
that
did.
fast pitching
It
or
was as
or
fast. It was as fast as you could throw underhand without
right?
slingshot
No
or anything
windmill.
like that.
No
No
windmill.
wind, no windmill.
Got it. Yeah, I remember.
And amazingly enough, there were a bunch of pitchers. Myself, Gary
Misha.
Labriola, Misha, which Misha was the knuckleballer of the group. And then somehow that morphed into what we had as the Fordham Bears. We had the best damn jerseys, red, white,
Yeah.
and blue, stars on them. And I remember
Yeah.
busting Misha's horns because the last time I saw him, which must have been, I don't know, 20 years ago, he still had
Yeah.
that jersey and it was still in pristine condition. Yeah, we had the Bears.
That was
I was the short. I remember some of the places we played. I was the shortstop at that point. Louis was the
right.
third baseman. Danny Calaro was short center. You played second base sometimes.
Yeah.
Ronnie Lab was first base. Michael Lab was center field,
Right.
and right and left I
Was
can't
Steve
remember.
was Steven Albano, Richie Ramasco on those teams?
Richie Ramasco might have been. Richie might have been on the team. Yeah, not Steven. No, but
And
Richie was probably on that team.
yeah.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
was
that was
fun.
I played a couple of years. That was great
Yeah.
and competitive. You,
Oh, it was
you
intense, man. There was no fooling around. There was, we
yeah,
wanted to win. There was no,
and you're
no let
playing
no letting up.
kids from maybe 2 blocks away.
Yes, yes. Well, you think about how many kids were in that neighborhood because we had at least 10 teams, 10, 12 guys
Yeah,
on a team
yeah,
without
yeah.
blinking an eye. And then that morphed into the the bigger rivalries for excuse me, those might be a little older, the Zooks and the Pierres.
Yeah.
And then it got really, it really wasn't as intense because I think we were more into bragging rights at that point,
Uh huh.
especially with Perry, and then
The
Vinny
Zooks
Tachi.
and the Pierres.
Yeah, that
You
was a
could
big
have
rivalry.
two brothers, one on the Zooks and one on the Pierres.
100%, 100%.
Only,
And then
only in the neighborhood.
and the great part, right, is we go to the park after the games and
Yeah.
we drink together.
Yeah.
And
That was the quart in a can.
yep, yep.
Quart of Colt 45 and a can of Colt 45.
Old English.
Yeah. What
And then Perry, because we used to win most of the games in the early. Then Perry went out and got Tommy Giordano, Frankie Giordano,
oh, boy.
Bobby Cap. All these guys played on the Lions, who played on Sunday mornings in 45, and those were big money leagues. Team
Right.
called the Satins. Teams from outside the neighborhood.
Right.
The Lions had a guy named Pal. Pal, the story goes, I don't know, hit a home run off the king of his court.
Okay. And those were money games that those
Money
guys were
games.
playing.
Yep. They played for money. Softball was big business there.
Yeah, because there was no, the league is for 15 to 18-year-olds. After a while, everything just blended in.
Hey, I got to tell you one story. So the Lions are playing, and I'm there with Dom the Priest. Remember Dom the Priest?
Ah, yeah.
So we decide that
Ubrev.
We decided we're going to steal a softball from those guys. So I flipped it to Dom. We walked a little bit. We're flipping the ball back and forth. And we took off. So we get to Dominic's house, which was 183rd and Hughes Avenue. And who comes knocking at the door? Frankie G. He followed us because we stole the ball. He didn't do anything. He kind of gave
No,
us
got the ball back.
got the ball back. It was funny, but Dom the priest.
Dom the priest. We could,
What
we could do a
else?
couple of minutes on him.
We could definitely do a couple minutes on him. Characters of the neighborhood.
Yeah.
All right, and then we
Yeah.
got to football, which was almost a rite of passage. I know you have that picture of the Belmonts,
Yeah, I saw
and
it on
the
that
Belmonts,
page.
the Belmonts were in the men's league. That's what we called it. They were probably in their 20s,
Right.
maybe mid 20s, early 30s. The men's league, and they played on Sundays. Excuse me. And then there was like I guess the juniors. I don't know what you call them. What we call them, but there were teams that one that Rudy maintained, the Packers, which was like
Right.
Joe Fusco, Carmine Potenza. Geez, I can't think of the other names, but those are the guys. Ali was the center. So they were the Packers. Then there was a group of kids from a group of teenagers from Batgate Avenue, like Louis Mastro, Jerry. So those guys, and there was that team, and then
Right.
there was Tessie's, which was from
Adams Place kids.
Adam's Place. Yep. And that was Frankie Sabatino. That was Martucci.
He played for
So there was them.
Tessie's.
Yes, and then there was the team from Camberling Avenue, which was they were the Vikings. They wore purple, I remember. Again, intense
Now,
games, intense
yeah,
games.
because they were serious, those guys.
Yeah, yep.
The didn't Uncle Louis Lab, he had a candy store up by St. Martin's. Was he a coach of one of those teams?
Yes, I don't remember which team. It might have been Tessie's. It might have been Tessie's because that's where really they came from.
Right.
There was the Gothams, which was like Tommy Giordano, all those guys, and then there was the Junior Belmonts, which was Billy Lab, and a bunch of those guys.
Right.
But everybody had somebody, like in the next division. So there was the men's league, the junior league, the smaller leagues, but everybody had a friend, a relative, somebody who played in the league before. That's why I said it was a rite of passage, because eventually those teams ended up, including in my time, we ended up playing in the Sunday leagues that were in the Williamsbridge Oval, in Pelham Bay Park.
Wow, on dirt.
On dirt. Those were Mikey Dean was the quarterback, and they took like the best guys from every team. It was almost an all-star team for the neighborhood, and never lost. And then when we moved up, we won four out of 5 years. Eddie Boots was and me were the coaches. We had Victor. We had his brother Darren. We had Danny Tachi. Do you want to hear a story about Danny? Poor Danny. Abbonanima Danny.
Abbonanima, sure.
At one point, I stopped playing because I was too busy coaching and I couldn't pay attention to playing or coaching. So Angelo Bonvino says, you got to make a decision. Either you're going to play or you're going to coach. I said, well, I don't mind coaching, but if I'm going to coach, do we want to win or do we want to be friends? And the answer was, we want to win. And poor Danny was the first guy I sent to the bench. I think he didn't talk to me for years after that.
But
And we
Frank,
won.
when
We won. We
you're
won
backing
four out
up
of
a
five
little
years.
to when we that was Danny. You were the quarterback of the Fordham Bears,
I was the
or
quarterback
you
of the Fordham Bears.
linebacker?
Fordham. Well, both, but I was the quarterback initially.
Right.
Yeah.
And Danny Touch was on that team.
Yep.
John Gus, Louie
Yep.
naturally,
Yep.
uh,
Nicky
Bobo and
Simeone,
Ziggy,
Bobo and
right?
Sigsy, Louis Vaccarino.
Louis Vac.
Yeah, Louis Vac got poached by the older guys to go play in the Saturday League on the dirt.
Yeah, nobody
Was
could block him, Frank.
Nobody could block him. Nobody could block him. Do you remember?
Two-hand touch.
Wait a minute, but
Go ahead.
as close to tackle as you possibly could get. There was no two-hand touch about it. The really intense games that we used to have with Tessie's juniors.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if you remember this game. We're playing on a Saturday, and a big fight started. And again, I was in the middle because I was the quarterback. And who's walking along the field? My mother and my grandmother. And I'm getting hit. I'm getting blows all over the place because I'm the quarterback. Yeah, but we had some
I
intense games
know.
with Tessie Juniors.
With Tessie's, those games were circled on the calendar, as they say.
Yep.
You know.
Cardarelli.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it's funny, Frank. We really didn't know those guys. They're like St. Martin's guys or whatever.
Hmm.
But when I got to Mount,
Yeah,
a lot
Cardarelli
of
ended
those
up at Mount.
Tessie's,
Yep.
yeah, John Fasano, a
Yep.
bunch of them were at Mount. So now the rivalry just forgot all about it, And and I still talk to these guys.
Yeah.
Cardarelli, but
Yeah.
Fasano,
Yeah.
we see him at the Mount things. Those games were great. And Frank, who was the referees on the football?
Oh, Moach. Big Moach.
Right. So there's no talking back to him.
There was no talk. Moach was the lineman. Offsides was his thing. There was no talking back. You didn't talk back to Moach.
Right.
Bruno.
That's right.
Bruno.
You know who I remember too? I think if he with the softball to kick back to was Anthony Bianco's older brother Jr.
JR?
An umpire too, and
Yes.
an umpire.
Yep. There was a guy who was the umpire there, Frank Martin, a redheaded guy. He was my manager. I worked at Dayburn on Hoffman Street, and he was one of the umpires. Really Irish guy with red freckles. Nice guy. Nice guy.
Yeah. Because of course, like Joe Beebe Eyes was he
Joe
just
Beebe
got
Eyes,
abused.
Yes.
Another guy, not Abu Nanama.
Yeah.
Great nickname though.
Yeah. One of the things we played softball for the summer. Remember in '45 we had the summer league.
Sure.
The summer days. So I played softball there, and I was a shortstop when I was skinnier and younger. But the pitcher was a Spanish kid. I forget his name. But one day he's pitching, and he got down so low he scraped his nails on the ground, and it was like four fingers bleeding. So remember Dills? I forget his real name, but his name was Dills.
Was that his nickname?
That was his nickname.
He was on that 45 summer team?
He was no. He was like one of the guys who watched over the kids.
Oh, okay. So it was Tommy G, Bobby
Tommy
Cap,
G, Bobby Cap, and Dills, and I
the
forget
two
who else
lady
was there.
teachers.
The two ladies.
Maureen and Linda.
And Linda. Yep.
Yeah.
They were probably 20 years old. We thought they were
Right. But we started to go to 45, Frank.
Yeah.
Same thing. We're probably 12, 13, 14.
Yep.
And then we kept going until we were like 18, 19.
Yeah.
Bobby Cap used to let us drive his car. go get sandwiches.
You remember Bobby Cap's signature? He would
No, I
drive his
do
car with
not.
his elbow out the
Oh
window,
yeah,
and he'd get sunburn on one arm.
He had like a gangster lean. He invented it.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. But
He,
that's where I learned. That's where I learned how to pitch because we had no pitcher,
oh,
and Tommy G took me a couple of days and taught me how to pitch.
that was another league you would go because not all the public schools had that set up with the ping pong and the bumper pool for the summertime.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
We would play wiffle ball. So the
Wiffle
schools
ball
that had
inside.
it were few and far between. So Tommy and Bobby would drive you guys to the games. You
Yeah.
couldn't,
Oh, yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
that was another thing. That was a great thing. That school, 45 summer school, boy oh
Yep.
boy, wiffle ball, choose in the
Yeah. We had half
pull
the
up
gym.
ball,
We had
pull
half.
up.
We had half the gym.
Yeah, fun, and we always had
Jeez.
enough guys for a game.
And I'm thinking, thinking about 45. There was the night basketball. So the gym would be open. I forget what
during the
nights.
winter.
2 nights a week. Yes, yes. 2 nights a week. 3 nights a week. You might have been gone by then.
Yeah, yeah.
But there was night basketball, and there was some great basketball players that would come. Remember a black kid named Peanut?
Yeah, sure.
Well, Peanut used to come, and this other guy
I think
used to
he
come.
used to come to the boys' club too.
Yes, to the
Peanut.
boys' club. The boys' club.
Yeah.
And Peanut would bring this guy called Spider. And Spider
Peanut and
would
Spider.
wear a stocking on his head. And had this weird shot. But, and Walter Mazza used to come down and play. Again, intense games. It was 3-on-3. I forget how many points won. But you stayed on as long as you kept winning.
Was that half? You play half court.
Half court. Yeah, 3-on-3, half
Yeah,
court.
yeah.
When you got a rebound, you had to take it out past wherever, whatever the line was. But intense games.
I always remember on Hoffman Street, the entrance to the gym that was right there on 189th and Hoffman. When you guys were playing in there, the doors would always be open because it was so hot. It was
So hot.
just
There was no air
so
conditioning.
hot.
Yeah.
And plus you're running and everything.
Yep.
Yeah, it was. So Frank, how long did you play? You were from when you started 7th grade or to when you finished coaching with those guys.
Mid 30s.
So 35, yeah.
So I
Long
started
time.
a long time, and you would never you could in the neighborhood you could play sports all the time. There was always somewhere to go. Somebody who wanted to play basketball. We made up games. We played all kinds of things. But
It's
sports
a real
was
sound out to the goodness
Yeah.
of all of that.
Yep.
We were talking before about the 45 field was the big part was football and softball.
Yep.
Then that first fence was the basketball.
Right.
Then there was
Then
one
there was
more
the handball-
fence
the
on the
handball
one
courts.
side of the wall. They would play fast, stickball with a glove and fielders and balls and strikes. Then you would play stickball with the
Box ball.
with the box for the strike on the wall.
That's right. That's right.
So you didn't need that many guys to play.
No, that was
And,
really you only needed two guys: the pitcher and
Right.
then somebody who played
And a
the other side
fielder.
of the fence. That's it.
Right. And then we were talking the other day on the other side of the field on 188, the other wall was handball. They played roller hockey and running hockey.
Roller hockey and run. Well, roller hockey. Somehow they found time to do roller hockey in the big part of the field, like where we played softball. But
Oh,
Johnny,
yeah?
Johnny Watson and his
remember that.
crew. They found the time. But Johnny Watson
That
and his
was-
crew, Eddie Shalard,
Right.
The
Jimbo, midget,
Jimbo,
boat midgets.
yeah, both midgets. But another guy, Banana Mike
Uh,
Amons. Yeah,
yeah.
we
Dwight
played.
Rossi and the brother,
Yeah, we played field,
Paul,
well, what I
Paul
would call field hockey, I guess.
running hockey.
Yeah.
Or not even running. Yeah.
And then there, if you
But
remember, on the corner, right on the corner there of Lorelot and 188th, there was a little corner where we played slap ball. They had painted bases, and we played slap ball. And somebody
so it
would
was a
pitch. We'd
short
have
little field.
yep. We'd have a
Was it
shortstop,
punch
third
ball or
baseman.
slap ball?
Either way, didn't matter. Did whatever you wanted to do. You'd
And you
have two
bounce the
out.
ball in, right?
You bounce the ball in.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
We had two
So,
outfielders, a shortstop, a third baseman, and then the right fielder was the second baseman too, and a first baseman.
so folks that don't know, the 45 field was a true city block, four
Oh, full,
sides of,
four sides. Yep.
and so much activity there, and a meeting place, drinking place,
Yeah. At nighttime we go hang out and drink
after the game, of course.
after the game. Yeah.
Yeah. There was the only place where the coach would coach the game, then get you the beer.
Yeah. Yeah. We used to walk
Go to
down.
the
We used to walk down. We used to walk down 180, 188 to 189. 188th Street to the
189,
bottom,
right?
and there was that bodega at the bottom of the hill.
Yeah,
And we
yeah.
go in there and buy beer. I remember buying champagne because it was stronger. So many things. I'm sure we're leaving out tons of things that we did.
Yeah, no,
We
we
played. We
covered a
played.
lot on that.
We played half ball. Right. We had a half a
Right.
Spalding, and we couldn't buy another one, so we played half ball. So like
Ha-
fast pitch, and the ball would do all crazy things
and you can make a game anywhere.
anywhere.
Like
Yeah. You know what we.
in the field, on our
Yeah.
block,
Yep. You know
the
what we didn't
fields were
do a
all
lot.
funny
You know what we didn't do?
configurations.
Yeah. Well, we made it work. We made it work.
Yeah,
You know what
you kill a
we
whole
didn't do a
day.
lot? What we didn't do a lot, and everybody talks about it, growing up in the Bronx, we didn't play stickball that much. At least not in
No,
the street.
no, not in the
We,
street.
we did,
We
and then we
played
played ball. Then we played ball in the
in the
little
schoolyard.
courtyard. In the little
Yeah,
courtyard there.
we would throw the ball against the wall first, and when it came back, you hit it with
You
the
would hit
stick
it.
ball,
Yeah, yeah,
and then it would go, basically the ball went off the buildings,
yep,
and then you try to catch it for an out.
yep.
Where's that in the rule book? It didn't matter. You pay if you
What
had
else?
four guys,
And then,
two
and then
against two.
when we were kids, when we were much younger, we used to go to 45 to Mount shit. We used to go to Fordham and
Fordham
play
University,
slow
yep.
motion tackle football in the snow.
Yeah, yeah.
We would argue about
kill the guy,
you were
kill the
going
guy
too
with
fast.
the ball.
That's not slow motion. Yeah,
Thank God. I know I talked about it in one of the other episodes. We were lucky to have that college over there.
yeah, yeah.
We would just cross one street. You had the grass, and you could play tackle, and
At one
was,
point, the Giants had their summer training camp there.
training camp.
Yep,
They
summer
would live in
training
the
camp.
dorms.
Yep.
That was it, probably in the '60s.
Of course, yeah. Of course, we tried to rob a football,
I
but got caught.
thought there were souvenirs.
Yeah.
Spent a lot of days in the Fordham. Even
Fordham and
watching,
45 was.
yeah, home base for everything.
The one thing
stuff.
that I remember as a kid, my mother was a single mom, right? So we didn't have a lot, but she had friends who were Yankee fans. They lived in Tommy Testey's building, and So they said to my mother, "Can we take your son to the ball game?" So my mother said, "Sure." I remember going to the building, waiting for them. We got in a checkered cab with remember the bumper seats that came up in the back,
They
like
jumped like a portable
like
seat that sprung up
that's right.
for a
So
big
we got
crowd.
in that, I think about 6 people, and we go to Yankee Stadium. Now I had a 13-inch black and white TV, and so we go to the game, and I remember going up the ramp and seeing the field in spectacular color. And that
Wow.
vision stays with me forever because all you could see is the green and the lights. And we sat like all the way up in the back. And back then the stadium had poles. And I remember having
Yeah.
my glove and I'm behind the pole. So, so first of all, we're so high up, there was no chance you could catch a foul ball or anything. And second of all, I was behind the pole. So what good was the glove going to do me? But that night, I remember to this day coming out on the field and then seeing the green and the lights and
Yeah.
what what it looked
And you
like
know
in real
those
life.
seats up there, they were $1.50
Ah,
general admission.
well, we would go from 75 cents to get in the bleachers, and then another 75 cents at some point during the game. They'd let you cross over from the bleachers into the main part of the stadium. They made you actually walk through the
The bullpen.
the bullpen.
Yep, I remember that.
Yep. Yep. So
And you
for a
know,
buck 50, you were in Yankee Stadium.
the stadium back then with the monuments in center field.
Hmm.
Boy, you know, I guess we took it a little bit for granted how great it was. You know,
Yep. Yep.
for a couple of dollars, you know, the train and the bus was probably a quarter for. So you got down there, and it was always a parent or somebody, like you said, your neighbor, your mom's friends.
Yep.
Come on, we take you to the stadium. We
Yep.
were lucky like that. Everybody had somebody to take them to the games. You know.
Yep. Yep.
Did you
Well,
ever go, Frank, to any football Giant games at Yankee Stadium?
I went to one game.
Me too.
I
I went
remember
to
it was
one.
against the Steelers.
I went to one, and I was the same as you, behind a steel girder.
Did you go to the game with us with Larry when we went out on the field?
Shea Stadium.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. We went to a couple of those games.
Well, we went to the one where OJ
Broke the record.
broke the record, and we were on the
Yeah, I
field. And I
was there.
remember we were walking behind the bench, and Joe Namath was there. He had his big fur coat on, and we sat like down in the corner of the end zone. If I
Right.
remember correctly, Larry
I
went to
think we would
school
lean
with
up against the wall because we had these
yeah,
passes that
right.
we put on our buttons, you know,
Yep.
our jacket
Yes.
or something.
Yeah. Well, Larry, if I remember, went to school with a kid at New Paltz whose father was in the Jets, ticket
Organization.
office or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I
And
remember going to that game.
you know, if you remember, Frank, we would, you guys would wrap up the games in 45 field, and we would jump in the car and fly to Shea Stadium to get there. You know, because
Hmm.
oh man, it's so exciting to be on the field.
Yep. Yep. We went to another game against the Rams, and
Uh huh.
there was a player. He was number 58, Isaiah Robertson. The guy was a linebacker for the Rams, and back in those days, they had those huge shoulder pads.
Right.
This guy looked like he was 3 people wide. It was unbelievable how big he looked.
Yeah.
Some
Those
of
days,
those things stick in your mind.
the rules to the games were really combative. You know,
Yeah. Well, listen,
and there was not that
you know,
many teams.
nope. All I could
I
say
mean,
was all the games were fun, but they were intense. And I'll tell you another crazy story. So we're playing in 45, and I'm pitching. And as they say in today's world, the umpire is squeezing me. I don't know if it was Joe BBI's, who it was, right? And Angelo Bombino is catching, and Angelo tells me those are strikes. He goes, I don't know what the hell he's doing. So, so I'm standing on the mound. He throws me the umpire, and I forget who it was. He throws me the ball. I was so incensed at that point. I took the ball and I threw it over the roof of the boys' club. And I turned to the umpire and said, "Now that's, excuse my French, now that's a fucking ball."
Frank, if it was Joe BBI's you're pissed off, you might have to go and get a sandwich from him in a couple of days.
And you don't know what you put on it.
Risky
I don't
business.
Yeah, I don't remember who it was, what umpire it was, but it was either him or JR, because JR did all the games. And Anthony Bianco's brother.
Yeah, I think he got yelled at the most. JR. A real villain.
Yeah.
What else you got for me, Frank? Kick the Can podcast. I'm enjoying this.
I'm trying to think. A lot of stuff we did. In the 45. The night basketball. Just you learn the game because you're playing against older kids or for that matter, men. I might have been 15 and they were 17 or 18, and you learn the game. But just the other thing that sticks in my mind, I keep saying that, is how many kids there were where you could have a team from every single block.
Really?
Every single block.
Well, our block had 75 families.
Yeah.
Then you have hanger-oners or keeper lived across Fordham Road. Maybe they came over. They'd be on the team.
Well, the McCarrons, you just reminded me, the McCarrons, they
right. There were a lot of those kids.
They were big in those leagues. Tommy McCarron and Bobby.
Yeah.
Wow.
Fast.
They were excellent ball players. Then they had a younger brother. I can't remember his name. He was a little bit younger than us, but he played with us because he was so good.
Yeah.
What the hell was his name? Bobby, Tommy.
The girls hung around on our block.
Yeah.
And there was 3 or 4 brothers and 3 or 4. There was like 6 or 7 kids.
Yeah, well, there were 4 guys and at least 3 girls.
Right.
That's what I remember.
And they would always, drag the little one around.
Yeah.
If they were hanging out on the block, remember?
Yep. But they were good ball players.
They were talented guys.
Yep, good ball players.
Yeah.
But in the teams that came from out of the neighborhood, I felt sorry for them because no matter what, they got the shit under the stick because everybody would be rooting against them.
Yeah.
Whether it was softball, whether it was football.
And those Sunday football games, if it was like you said, that rivalry game, like the Belmonts and the Tessies, there'd be so many people just watching that if you were just walking toward the field, there was an actual roar.
Big crowds.
And it was something else.
Yeah, here's something that you had to remember. After the games, what did we do? We ordered food from Dominic's.
Right.
And we went up Louie's house to watch the game.
That's right. From watching the neighborhood football to the pros. And always a cast of characters up there who like this team. What's the line? All that gibberish.
Yeah.
Fun stuff.
Well, I never had enough
Really
money
good.
to gamble, so it's something I
Nah,
didn't do.
I never gambled.
Yeah.
I just I couldn't pick a winner, and it was
Yep.
more fun watching these other clowns.
Yep.
You
Yep.
know, especially around the Super Bowl, we would watch who had the points, who had the wrong side, who needed this team. What memories?
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
memories, man?
Yep. And we'd be
Really
there,
good.
stuff on our faces.
Yeah. And
And I
I
got
was a little slight back then. Maybe picking out
yeah,
like
yeah,
125 pounds, and
yeah.
these guys would always be hawking my food.
Yeah.
You know,
Yep.
see if I slow down,
Oh
and then they
yeah. You watch your
pounce.
plate. That's it. And I gotta say it again
So
though. We
true.
we got to do a shout out to the Fordham Bears Club for buying us those
Yeah,
jerseys because that was a big deal. That was a big deal. I think that was one of
and
the things, the
Frank.
reasons they hated us. The other teams hated
Yeah,
us.
yeah. I mentioned the other day, like my father, Louis' father, Larry's father, Michael and Ronnie's uncle. They were members of that club, Fordham
Hmm.
Bears.
Yep.
So it really brought an extra familiarity or closeness. It's like passing the torch a little.
Yeah. It's like I said,
Really
it was
made it nice.
rite of passage.
Yeah,
You always had somebody, friend, relative, somebody who was there. Well,
yeah,
didn't your grandfather live down on Hoffman near 188th Street?
yeah. Right in the middle of the block.
Yeah.
When you came up from the ice plant and you turned, he lived right across the street from the Augustinellis.
Okay.
There was a
Okay. Yeah.
little house there and
Yeah.
like a little storeroom on the side.
Yeah.
And then there were basically on the rest of the block was private houses and a few small apartment buildings.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
my grandfather lived right there. And
And
technically, I was
this is
pretty
off the
close to
topic a
you,
little bit.
where you live.
Yeah. Next to where your grandfather lived, and on that
Uh-huh.
side of the street, and across the street from the Malangs. Remember the Malangs?
Yeah.
They were like the politicians in the neighborhood.
Right.
Remember
Clang,
Aros?
clang, clang. Vote for
Yeah,
Malang.
remember Aros? The lady who had the boarding
Aros,
house?
yeah.
Yeah, and she had the roosters in the back.
That was a scary looking house.
Yep.
And
Yeah, we always thought
Aros's
we always
house
thought
had
she
that.
was a witch or something.
Yeah, and it had that big gloomy tree in front of the house.
That's right, the big tree.
I think when you walked by Aros's house, you picked up your speed and your steps a little bit. You get glommed, sucked into the house.
Yeah. Then who lived next? There was the Labriolas. There was
Yep.
the Mastro
Mas-
Pietros.
Pietros.
And then it turned into
There was a lot of Master
Mimi's.
Pietros there.
A lot of Mastro Pietros, right?
They had that whole building pretty much.
Yep. They had that one private house on the end, and then the next building.
Yeah. There was some squad
Anyway.
that lived in Gary's building.
Yep.
Poochie.
Poochie. Yep.
Remember him? His sister was in Mount Carmel with us, with us guys.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
Mary
the
Ellen
only
Pucci.
the only reason I knew anything about Mount Carmel is I started, with basketball. I went to CCD classes, the catechism.
Yeah.
In the afternoons. I remember they used to let you guys out early.
Right.
we go
Release
in.
time, we called it.
Release time. Yep.
Every Wednesday.
I
half day.
never got thanked for that.
Did you get your sacraments, Frankie?
Yeah, I got my sacraments.
There you go. You're on your way.
And I just wanted to give you a shout out. My daughters listened. At least my older daughter listened to the whole thing. She was quite impressed. She was quite impressed.
Thank you. I love to hear it.
Yeah.
You know, Frank, I pretty much I check with you after every episode, and the feedback and the fun I'm having, I can't say enough. You know, I think we could go on talking like this for a long time.
Then I was like,
It could,
it just goes, one thing goes
you
into the
know,
other.
like you and I talking like this, we could be out at in a restaurant talking over a
That's right.
dinner. The
That's
same
right.
kind of story.
That's right.
That's the uniqueness of it. And look, all those games and leagues and sports, they generated so many memories.
Yes.
Besides all the regular stuff, ball busting and everything,
Yeah.
you know.
Well, even there was, obviously ball busting during the games. We used to get on,
Yeah,
and I remember Michael Yeamans, and he and I were best friends for a long time before he
yeah,
passed, and he would be rooting against me. He'd be chanting "Spank the Frank."
yeah. And he had a voice that pierced you.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Poor
those are
Michael.
great
Nah.
memories. I'm glad to hear your
I lo-
daughters
lost.
are
We lost.
enjoying the
Yeah.
show.
Yep.
And
Yep. We lost.
you
We
got
lost a lot of
loads of
friends. That's
friends.
something.
They're all going to
And we
listen
lost
to
a lot.
you.
We lost a lot.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's since I started doing this, I reflect so much on so many things. It's, man, you got to really have a thick skin and go, wow, so many people are not
And
here.
here's something we ought to think about. It's your podcast, but places
Yep.
that we would go to eat. Remember the Telstar Diner?
Oh, yeah.
The Telstar. We used to walk all the way up to Jerome and Fordham Road.
Frank. Whipped cream. I mean, rice pudding, no whipped cream.
No, where did
You're
we
getting
go?
the
Where
whipped
did
cream.
we go? Where did we go that they would say Drovan?
That was
Was that
Telstar.
That was
Yeah.
Telstar. Okay.
Yeah. Because
I
it
know
was.
we're off the subject, but I just.
Yeah, no, but just one of those things that could go. Restaurants
Yeah.
we could talk about. Nicknames is a big thing.
Oh, nicknames is big. Nicknames is
And
big.
I might have to do a mini series on nicknames.
Yeah.
Because there's so much. Some guys had two nicknames, like
Multiple names.
right?
Yeah.
And some guys morphed, like Frank. Fat Ronnie became Ronnie the Beast.
Ronnie, and then he became Ronnie Best of the Beast. Remember that? Because he couldn't spell beast.
Oh, that's right. Nobody was safe.
Nobody was safe. Googie was Googie to start with, and then Muldoon.
The best Googie.
All those
Really,
guys,
really.
all those guys in the Fordham Bear Club.
Yep. Chich, Salome,
Chich,
Windy,
Window.
Jake the Snake, Babe. So many. And nicknames are a big part of any neighborhood or any Bronx thing,
Yep.
We're gonna do an episode on nicknames. I think my next episode, Frank, I'm going to bring Stephen Albano on. And he's a Hoffman Street and a Mount Carmel. And
Yeah.
he's got a great memory. And he's got all the key pictures.
You got the pictures. Yep.
Yeah. Get that $8 camera. Get a lot of life out of the pictures on my podcast. Well,
All right.
all right, Frank, I'm going to wrap it up. I can't
This
thank
was
you
fun.
enough.
This was fun. No, anytime.
Keep your wheels spinning. I want the ideas coming.
All right. Got it.
Let's see. What do I got to say here? It's okay. We're on
No sponsor today.
Facebook. No, my legal team, Frank. It's frowning. You got somebody want to sponsor?
I don't have anybody.
But I gotta do my little speech. So this is episode 8. We're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and Facebook. And make sure you spread the word, everybody. Hope you really enjoyed
Will
it. Thank you again, Frank. And
Thanks.
Happy Father's Day, everybody.
Yep. Happy
And
Father's
we'll
Day.
talk to you guys soon.
This was fun.
Thanks, Frank.